There's only a selected few people that get through this course, but the fact of life is not everybody will because they don't have what it takes.
If we don't think they're going to cut it, then it's basically a hard fail at that point.
Abort! Abort!
Potentially, if I screw up, I could put an aircraft in the dirt.
As you get to the money shot, when the load actually exits the aircraft, that's the culmination of everything.
This military aircraft is obviously not a fighter jet. It's not a tactical bomber either, but despite its lack of firepower, the C-130 Hercules is one of the most important aircraft in the Air Force. This four-engine, fixed-wing aircraft is capable of short takeoffs and landings on virtually any kind of terrain, in any kind of weather. It's maneuverable and cruises at 345 miles per hour. But most importantly, this workhorse carries tens of thousands of pounds of combat troops, vehicles, food, fuel, and ammunition. Since January 2002, the Hercules has been a vital lifeline for NATO troops based in Afghanistan. These Canadian Air Force crafts and their crew are known as truckers in the sky. They have delivered thousands of passengers and millions of pounds of crucial supplies to the heart of war zones. Flight crews operating these tactical airlifters in a military theater need the right stuff. Streaking through hotspots at 150 feet off the treetops with no armament means you have to outwit potential aggressors with stealth and speed. Air crews must complete a grueling 6-month specialized course to prove they have the skills, the nerve, and the heart to fly in one of the most dangerous regions in the world. Squadron has a rich history dating back to World War II. Here, all aircrew and maintenance technician candidates train in 30 different aviation courses that support both Hercules and Polaris aircrafts. Each year, over 1,000 personnel graduate from 426 Squadron, fully prepared for military support operations anywhere in the world. The majority are deployed to war-torn Afghanistan.
Right now, we are the lifeline for the Army, for the troops to get out of the area of operation in Afghanistan. So really, we are the ones taking them back and forth out of theater.
426 Squadron provides training for all 6 crew positions in a Hercules aircraft. The aircraft commander and first officer pilot the plane in the left and right seats. The navigator and flight engineer support the pilots in the cockpit, while out back in the cargo bay, 2 Loadmasters or Loadies are in charge of freight in the rear. Some students have already flown with Hercules air crews and are looking to upgrade their tactical flying skills. Others have worked on different types of aircraft in the Canadian Forces. All of the candidates share the same goal: to be one of the select few who will graduate and then test their skills in Afghanistan.
For the no time diversion,
just like if a threat pops up right in front of you, a mile off track or something like that, you gotta get away from there as soon as you can.
Crew from the right seat, we've got a hostile helo sighted.
basically you're going to do a timing triangle. And how that works, basically making an equilateral triangle.
This course isn't just about learning to fly an aircraft from A to B. In Afghanistan, these planes will be delivering crucial cargo by parachute directly to forward troops on the ground. These students must learn how to squeeze a 132-foot wingspan through jagged, narrow riverbeds in hostile territory. There are no weapons on a Hercules. Her only defense against an enemy attack is flying at low altitude in stealth mode and evasive maneuvering while under attack. A Hercules aircrew operates with a paper-thin margin of error.
Each course consists of about 18 students. That's broken down into 3 crews of 6 students each. You have 2 pilots, 1 an aircraft commander, first officer, a flight engineer, a navigator, and 2 loadmasters. Right from day one, we basically tell them that you're getting on a roller coaster ride. It's not over until almost 6 months down the road, approximately. And they're going to have ups and downs. It's going to be stressful, it's going to be fun, it's going to be painful, it's going to be a pleasure at times. On occasion, we have people that don't make it through the course. That could be for a various amount of reasons. It could be for family issues, it could be academics, it could be because they just don't have the skills that we're looking for to fly the Hercules in the manner that we do. That's the question we asked at the end of the course. Is this person capable of doing this successfully?
Okay, that's it for me.
You'll find with aircrew, they're primarily type A personality, very focused, showing incredible initiative, and they want a challenge. And that's what I find is all the students want a challenge and they want to prove their capabilities. So we do have some characters at times, and it is good because it really provides some strong crew cohesion with the aircrew. You have people coming from different facets of life, and they all come together as a cohesive team with very dynamic discussions at times, but people are very focused on the mission, and they're very results oriented.
I joined originally in '93 as a navigator, and I was posted to the Hercules community back before the war in Afghanistan started. I'm currently 42, an old man in the community, but I've been over there 3 times. I've been over as a first officer for my first 3 tours, and now I'm upgrading to aircraft commander. When I got out of university, I joined a company, and I was sitting in a cubicle typing on a computer, and at 23 or 24 years old, I didn't think that was for me, so I thought I'd join the military and be all I could be.
Get the right hand turn for flight instruments. Check.
If you think about an airliner, there's 2 pilots, and they're normally called the pilot and co-pilot. In the military, it's similar positions. We call it aircraft commander and first officer, whereas the aircraft commander's responsibilities are the aircraft, the mission, and the crew, whereas the first officer is there to assist the aircraft commander. Anything that will help the pilot out so he can devote all his concentration on flying. I became interested in aviation when I was about 15 or 16. My older brother received his private pilot's license, so that's about when I decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to fly. I wanted to travel around the world, work with a close-knit team, and I didn't really want a normal 9 to 5-ish job. I wanted to do different things, and in the military you can do that.
I've been in the snow before. I'm Canadian.
I am the flight engineer. I'm the aircraft knowledge specialist. We're supposed to know anything and everything from nose to tail about the aircraft. And when somebody looks around and goes, why is that light on? Why is the engine stopped? Why is that squeaking? We're supposed to know. I'm very new to the Herc world. I came from search and rescue from the new search and rescue platform, the Cormorant helicopter. So I spent 5 years there. So it's been a pretty intense ride so far. It's a lot of aircraft knowledge to take in a short period of time. And I've got promoted fairly quickly because I seem to be pretty decent at the job, or everybody seems to think so.
it's really a natural progression for those of us that are posted to tactical flying. You start off as a first officer and sort of develop your knowledge of the aircraft and the operational environment. And then once you've gained enough skills with the aircraft and enough knowledge, then you can move on to be promoted to aircraft commander and take command in an operational mission. I've done this course in the right seat, and you know, it's a good course as a first officer, but I think it's a lot more fun as an aircraft commander.
Lockheed designed this aircraft for one thing, really, is to be the workhorse of the Air Force. It's noisy, it's dirty, and she keeps trucking along. Hence our name's Truckers. That's our call sign for the combat ready flight. And it really is indicative of what we do in real life, is take this plane all around the world, whether it be jungle runs, desert runs, Arctic runs. We're going to get it into those places that people don't want to take their pretty planes to get in there.
Session 3 of the 4-phase training program is about to begin for a group of soldiers learning to fly the Hercules aircraft. If they graduate, they will be going to Afghanistan. They have already slogged through 3 months in the classroom and are almost ready to get into the plane. But first they must prove their capabilities in the aircraft simulator. Only if this team of hopeful candidates can successfully operate in the simulator in a number of war zone scenarios will they be allowed to move on to the next level. Real tactical flying in a Herc. This is a crucial transition point.
We do realize that this is not meant for everybody, and there's only a selected few people that are going to make it to this point and get through this course. Hopefully everybody does, but the fact of life is not everybody will, because they don't have what it takes.
Shane, steer right here, heading 180.
Right, 180.
Each hour that we put in the flight simulator saves thousands of dollars of actual aircraft time and flying hours. We can do stuff in the simulator that they cannot do on the airplane. You would not blow a tire on purpose on an airplane. You would not flame out an engine on purpose on the aircraft. We can do that, and if a crash, we do a reset and everything's back in line and everybody survives. We have 5 projectors up on top that'll give a 210 by 40 degree visual scene, and it's pretty realistic.
When you first get in there and start everything up, it feels like it's all a simulation and it's not real, but after about 5 minutes when you're flying around, it really does feel like it's the real thing. You get the same sensations, the same ground rush and everything, and it's quite realistic.
Today, Shane, Dean, and Tony will test their skills as aircraft commander, first officer, and flight engineer. Although the simulator can crash without killing anyone, this training stage is still crucial. In a real Hercules, missing one seemingly trivial item could mean death. During the flights, instructors are on board to keep a sharp eye on all procedures, coaching the students every step of the way.
And just to let you know, you can't do a tactical post takeoff unless you've done the combat entry, okay?
That's what I was wondering.
Yep, that's a good point. That's why we're in the sim.
I was thinking because I didn't get my Loadmaster check in either, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
My job on the flight deck is to back up the pilots. It gets really busy. As you might say, a mission specialist, and watching the engines, making sure the parameters of the aircraft aren't overstressed. Potentially, if I screw up, I could put an aircraft in the dirt, shut an engine off when you're not supposed to, hit the wrong switch, exasperate a fire. You could take down navigation systems, so yeah, I got to be on top of the ball, that's for sure. They certainly try to get as much realism in our training as they can, and even though it's an artificial environment, it gets to be pretty real.
This crew handled the first flight easily and appears confident. In cases like this, the instructors may throw curveballs at the students to keep them on their toes.
Mountain View traffic. Trucker 7 is rolling on runway 06.
Abort.
Abort.
What is
Fire
it?
number 2.
Fire. Shut down number 2. First 1 and 4 only.
We had one emergency simulated engine fire. So as we were accelerating down the runway to take off, we had a fire warning. We shut down the engine. We tried to discharge the fire extinguisher. Didn't take. Fire wasn't contained, so we ended up doing a ground evacuation.
Does the simulator stress us enough? Absolutely. Certainly when you get the loud noises from the warning horn, there's certain lulls that are very normal in the day-to-day flying, and that's where they want to actually catch you and say, hey, wake up. Kind of sucks because everybody gets caught. I'm sure you've probably seen the guy sitting at his desk at work and he's having a long day and is doing the head bob. We get the same thing too.
Okay, let's ground evac. Crew, ground evac.
The procedures are all real. It's a lot of stuff to know, a lot of stuff to study and remember. It can get you stressed. The simulation is very good, and the idea is to become so proficient and so familiar with the procedures and let yourself feel overwhelmed in the simulator so you become on top of it, so when it happens in the plane that you won't be stressed, that it'll become second nature.
They reacted very good, but you know, it's something that I added on to the syllabus today because how well they were doing. Someone might say, is that fair? Absolutely, because in real life, I don't know when that engine fire is going to happen. We hope it doesn't happen, but if it does, they just prove to me that they can deal with it in a timely manner, and that's what we're looking for. Crisp, sound, immediate actions, being safe and effective, and if they're not perfect, that's fine as long as they've chosen that route that it's still considered ideal and in the interest of everybody to protect the safety of everybody.
Tactical departure of your choice there.
My choice, okay, let's do a zoom. Okay, this will be a zoom departure.
We did a zoom departure, which is where you just lift off the ground, raise the gear, raise the flaps, accelerate, and then zoom up and gain altitude as quickly as possible.
And here comes the zoom.
Nice job, right up to the see the chevrons, good stuff.
It's very different from the way an average person thinks about flying. An average person thinks about going from A to B, and mostly what goes on in the front of the aircraft is for passenger comfort, so there's no aggressive maneuvering. We are concerned with avoiding threats, and if we are being shot at, we have maneuvers that will help us defeat these threats.
We call the landing check.
There was one point in the flight where we were heading in a direction that seemed a little counterintuitive to me. I didn't really say too much, tried to figure it out on my own.
There was a situation where he didn't speak up. He knew that something hadn't happened, and he quietly stated that there should be something happening, meaning specifically a checklist should have been actioned. And then he sat there quietly and just let things pursue towards the darker side.
Landing gear. Down and checked. Nose wheel steering is checked. Topics. Go. Landing check complete.
And in this case, certainly they could have forgotten to put their landing gear down and made it very interesting to end it off.
In the end, the crew got their gear down in time and landed the Herc safely. This near miss highlighted the importance of effective communication and strong team dynamics in the cockpit.
I guess, you know, had I spoken up and just asked the question, it would have been resolved a lot sooner. And once you get those things resolved, then you can be more effective to the crew. Because when you're off in your own world, sort of wondering what's happening, you're essentially baggage in the aircraft. You're not contributing anything to the crew.
How'd the landing check go?
That was actually my question was when was it? I said landing check when we were crossing overhead. Yeah.
No, you did, but it was really never loud enough. You should have been more firm saying, hey, landing check, you got to do something. No. You're part of the team there, right, Seed, okay? So you need to back him up.
Certainly in the debrief, he is aware of his mistake, which is the best thing that can happen in that situation. Basically, if you don't feel something is right, you have to raise it to the aircraft commander's attention, because there's been many people that haven't done it, stayed quiet, and as a result, an incident or an accident can occur.
Dean's mistake could have forced him out of the program. Luckily for him, he recovered in time to save the aircraft. The only damage was to his ego. Dean will have a chance to redeem himself in the next phase of the course, a real flight. While the cockpit crews focus on tactical flying, the Loadmasters are responsible for the cargo in the rear of the aircraft. Ground troops in Afghanistan rely on the Hercules crews to deliver things like food, water, and ammunition to places traditional supply lines can't reach. Since the parachutes can hold up to 30,000 pounds, virtually anything can be dropped from a Hercules. In training, cargo loads are typically filled with sand. The stakes are high for the loadies in the Hercs and the support technicians who pack the loads back on the ground. If during a mission, a load's parachute was to get hung up during its exit from the cargo hold, the Hercules could crash.
Behind you, what you see here are just these ones right here are our heavy loads, which would simulate a lot of the vehicles that would go out if they need to be deployed from the Hercules. Most of them range from about 4,000 to 9,000 pounds, depending on what's going to be in them. Like if we're dropping a vehicle, it's obviously going to be a little bit heavier than dropping rations and food. From the bottom up is energy dispersing pads at the bottom, which is, we call it just honeycomb, which all it does is when the load actually impacts the ground, we'll take as much of the force as possible and compress so that the load doesn't get damaged. But from that, you just go from your horizontal restraint systems, just so the actual G-forces of the load exiting the aircraft doesn't shift the load off of the platform. But besides that, everything from the suspension slings here is just how the parachute will attach to the load itself, and the release mechanism, which is actually one of the most important parts of the load, because the moment it hits the ground, it needs to have the parachute disconnect from the load so it doesn't let it get dragged across a highway, or in this case, across the battlefield. If anything goes wrong with these loads, any parachute that's hung up outside the aircraft can bring it down. So anything shifts in the aircraft, gets hung up, we're talking about a whole aircraft thundering in, and unfortunately it's not pretty thought at all. So, especially in terms of overseas where there's already a high risk with the pilots going in there as it is. So in terms of the quality control here, it's extremely important that everything in the book is followed exactly the way it's supposed to, because any malfunction, and there's more than just a load that's going to thunder in, it's people's lives.
Good morning. Following briefing is unclassified. Political talks between the UN, Sparta, and the Vandal governments have heated up over the current location of 2 tank battalions. A total of 6 SLM.
In Phase 4 of the training program, Hercules air crews are tested without the safety net of the simulator. After several weeks of some basic cargo drop exercises at the airfield, flight teams are now given their orders and objectives just as they would in a real war zone. Within a simulated combat environment, they are told when the cargo is scheduled for delivery and what to expect from enemy resistance. The team has just a couple of hours to map out the most strategic route to fly to the drop zone, deliver the load on time, and then fly safely back to base with enough fuel in reserve.
The front end crew is here. We've got the two pilots and the navigator, and we're coming up with the route and the flight plan. The flight engineer is at this point going over the plane and making sure it's completely serviceable, and the loadmasters are going over the loads in the back to make sure that they're ready to, they're accepting the loads. The loads have been all rigged, and they're accepting the loads from the people that rigged them, making sure they're QCing them to make sure they're good, and then they're going to check their part of the plane to make sure it's good to go as well. Today's mission, we're seeing a few things that are new. We're getting something called a FAC 9-liner, and essentially what that is in layman's terms is a situation where the Army doesn't exactly know where they want us to drop this load. Typically we have that information, so we just plan for it, but today it's one of a possible number of possibilities of places where we could drop it. So we're going to get airborne, and we're just going to go to a point in space and hold, and someone's going to tell us at that point where to go. As well, we're going north to drop on some drop zones we haven't seen yet, so that's going to make it a bit interesting as well. We're all under a certain amount of pressure because it's a course to perform, and now they've added on another little bit of pressure. They call this week War Week, where every time you go up and fly, you have to meet certain levels of competency, and they've ratcheted up the levels to the point where we're supposed to do it without errors. So to continue to advance, we need to get it right.
Since operations are happening for real in Afghanistan, we have pretty much made the drawing line that either these crews are ready to go out and deal with something for real, or if we don't think they're going to cut it, then it's basically a hard fail at that point.
Every member of the flight team is aware of their crucial roles and responsibilities during the mission. This is the make or break moment in the course. Instructors on board will be monitoring the entire flight. If something goes wrong, it's the instructor's job to single out the weak link within the crew and its chain of command.
3, 2, 1, take off.
Speeding through the war-torn mountains of Afghanistan, just several hundred feet off the ground, in a 155,000-pound aircraft leaves no margin for error. If this team can't carry out today's training mission successfully, someone will fail the course.
Essentially, in my seat, in the left seat, when you're flying the aircraft, you really need to pay most of your attention on exactly, say, not hitting the ground and watching where you're going. That's where I have my navigator, who is keeping a good eye on the timing control so we don't get ahead or late.
Just be careful then. Use a couple features.
Check. See this river at your 12 o'clock here?
Yep.
That's pretty much on track.
The navigator is all important in the run-in phase to the drop. He's got to situate the plane right in space, right where we need it to be, and on time to get the load out. And so, very challenging for him.
They have GPS and radar at their fingertips. But because they're flying so low and so fast, the navigators choose to work from topographic maps while sighting landmarks on the terrain below. They receive last-minute coordinates from the Command Control Center. Now they can make their approach to the drop zone. The entire crew is aware that staying on time is crucial to the success of this mission.
We fly very fluidly, but at the same time, we have a timing that we have to meet and a destination that we have to meet, within 1 minute. And that's to get the drop on target on time. So it all has to culminate in being where he wants to be at a given period of time.
Loadmaster, keep position.
Loadmaster acknowledges. Here's our river.
Roger that.
Slow down, now.
Rapid door. 2011, go. Cleared open.
The whole mission was pretty mundane right up until, well, we got into the hold, and then that was That was when the money shot was happening. We knew what drop zone we were going to, so then it was game on.
Stand by for the pop. Pop now. Keep rolling left. 15 seconds.
What drags the load out of the back is the deck angle, so we fly the aircraft at a very high deck angle, and it's on a roller system where we cut a rope type idea, and it just rolls out the back. So as you can imagine, if that deck angle isn't there, it won't roll out properly, but if it's too high, we run the risk of stalling. So it's right on the edge of the envelope.
5 seconds. Do you have it? Got the round.
Cole's got it.
Green on! Keep rolling left. 15 seconds.
Flaps. Reset 4.
5 seconds. Do you have it? Got the round.
Cole's got it.
Green on! Low clear.
Flaps.
As you get to the money shot, when the load actually exits the aircraft, that's the culmination of everything, and that's, for me, the most challenging, the most exciting, and everything is and the most saturating.
Clear to close.
Ultimately, we have to drop this load not only on target, but within a certain window. In a bigger package, there may be multiple people going to the same target, so we need to hit it on our time because someone else is using it at a different time.
The load was dropped on time and on target, but there is no time to rest easy. Now the crew must navigate back through hostile territory to the safety of their airbase. Just because they avoided enemy detection on their way to the drop zone doesn't mean there isn't an ambush waiting for them during their return route.
We fly low level to avoid detection, generally speaking. The type of threats that we're trying to avoid, an unfriendly force with small arms or AAA or something like that, anti-aircraft artillery. So he's looking for you. If he can't see you, then obviously you're successful. In order for him not to see you, we want to put terrain between us and a potential threat. 200 minimum safe distance is our contract, and what that means is essentially it's 200 above ground, but bearing in mind if you have 50-foot trees, if you're 200 above ground, you're only 150 above the trees. If you do the math, it's approximately 250 feet.
A lot of it really is focused on the front end. That's what you've seen with the pilots and the navigators. You got the engineers there, but you can't forget that the Loadmasters are part of that equation. They are an integral part of the crew, very important. They do a lot of work that goes hidden.
Top edge, Trucker 5, go ahead, please.
Roger, Trucker 5, top hat words, initial picture, 2 bogeys, suspected helos, hostile.
They will be spotting out their windows, covering the rear aspect of the aircraft, looking for threats, any kind of unusual activity on the ground, reporting to us, because for pilots in the navigator, we can only see forward of the aircraft, and when everything's past the wings, that's their responsibility. Could be a missile, could be AAA fire, something like that. They're the guys that are going to save our bacon from the rear aspect.
Okay, 090. Okay, guys, we got a threat pretty much on our 3 o'clock position right now for 15 miles.
Cool, snap 270, engage, hostile helo.
Jig, helo bander, right, 4 o'clock, 3 miles, hot. Still firing, Sam, right, 5 o'clock, 1 mile.
The drop to the ground troops was perfect, but the flight crew is now under enemy fire. After a slight hesitation, the aircraft commander executes several evasive maneuvers. It works. He saves the aircraft and his crew from being hit by enemy anti-aircraft artillery. The first officer relays the enemy locations to Allied forces on the ground, who will then move in to eliminate the threat. After changing course, it's the navigator's job to quickly generate a new route back to base.
I'm thinking he's helo, I can outrun him.
Roger that.
Even though the approach, the drop, and the aircraft commander's evasive maneuvers were near perfect, there was a slight hang-up in adjusting the follow-up navigation plan, which briefly delayed the aircrew.
Landing gear.
Down and check.
How big a mistake was the delay? The crew will have to wait until the flight debriefing to find out.
It went pretty well. There was some errors through the flight, but overall they did pretty well. We kind of take them to a couple levels above what they might see in theater, so that they'll be ready for that when they go over there. Some people actually might go to theater and find it a little bit mundane compared to what we do here on the course. Our War Week, which is what we're into right now, is pretty much the most difficult herc training that you're going to get.
You want to be overtrained, you want to be overtasked, and it's like anything, you know, if you overtrain physically, if you run a marathon every day, you can run 10 kilometers no problem.
After the flight, the instructor tells Captain Shane McGill the mistakes they made. During the attacks, the delayed reaction of the navigator could have put the flight team at risk by flying into unknown and potentially dangerous enemy territory.
Okay, are we all here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Debrief Trucker 5. Planning from the front end was a little more compressed than usual. That was no surprise with 3 run-ins. This environment, especially the training environment, is one that obviously you have to do the job right, but you have to do it as fast as you can. You can't take a lackadaisical approach to it. So I don't know how to debrief it any more than that, but just be as snappy as you can. Be fast and perfect. How's that? Okay, 7 tomorrow morning for you guys. Thanks.
Despite the navigation errors, the overall execution of the mission was considered a pass. Every member of this flight crew will get to fly again. The flight crew members are not the only ones involved in a successful cargo drop. In Afghanistan and in training, the Hercules aircrew must coordinate with a drop zone controller. They supply vital environmental data that affects the outcome of the drop.
Trucker 5, drop zone Tiger, check 1 minute, winds from 350 at 9 knots, clear to drop. I'm their eyes on the ground, so I see what's going on here. Should there be any hazards that would come into play when they were on their run-ins, I would advise them of a stop drop. I'm also here to call their winds. There's wind limitations for certain types of drops. We give wind direction also, and then the navs are able to calculate their release points also using the winds that I give them on the ground. So ultimately, we're just another added safety. We also coordinate the recovery of the parachutes and the loads. Whoop, I need to come a little closer. So this meter here is called an anemometer, and it gives us the wind speed in knots. So currently it's giving us a reading 9.4 knots. And this is what we use to advise the air crews of the wind limits on the ground. Trucker 6, drop zone Tiger, check 1 minute. Winds from 350 at 13 knots, clear to drop. Part of the communications that we do, we communicate twice with the aircrafts. We communicate on their inbound, which is 6 minutes out, and then the second communication we have with them is at the 1 minute. And at the 1 minute, we give direction of the wind, the speed of the wind, and then we advise the air crew whether it's clear to drop or not. At any time between the 1 minute and the actual drop time, we can advise them of a stop drop. Should there be a little aircraft come into the area or a civilian come onto the drop zone, we would advise them of a stop drop.
As flight school nears the end of Phase 4, training missions get harder and the standards are raised even higher. 5.5 months of training come down to just a few more evaluation flights. The next challenge? Contour flying over the treetops and tucked down in the riverbeds.
This is the make or break point in this course. It's made very clear to the students that this is in a very aggressive training plan. We'll be flying in riverbeds. The ultimate challenge there for contour flying, concealing the aircraft from the enemy. There's definitely an art to it. Not only an art, but a huge requirement for a huge skill set, because the fact of life is you are going to war.
In Afghanistan, Hercules crews fly through jagged mountains every day. To avoid detection, they will have to tuck a 155,000-pound aircraft into a winding riverbed going at over 200 miles per hour. It sounds like suicide. In a war zone, it's quite the opposite. Effective contour flying conceals an aircraft. That means facing a lot less enemy fire from the ground. The pressure to perform is enormous.
There's always pressure to perform. Every single day things get a little bit more complex, so there's an added element of a little bit of stress both in the pre-flight planning process as well as during the flight. There's more going on, and your expected level of performance goes up all the time, so it can get stressful, absolutely.
And we are 17 minutes and 30 seconds from our original timings. Check.
Okay, just stay right on the edge of this lake.
The first officer is there to assist the aircraft commander. If he's busy flying, I'll be reading the map, handling communications with the ground and other aircraft, ancillary control, flaps and landing gear.
Once when you cut the corner, it's a direct line. If you guys aren't on the money for a 10-minute Rolex, it's going to make it difficult for the river route.
Okay.
To ramp up the pressure, the instructors have subtracted 17 minutes from their drop schedule. Now the crew must take a shorter route through the riverbed. Add bad weather to the list and a drop zone they've never seen before, and you've got the makings for a white-knuckle mission.
The mission this week is to deliver a load via an airdrop scenario. The loads typically are container delivery system, so 2,000-3,000 pound load, that type of thing, trying to get it on target on time. They've done that in the past. It's kind of been a little more canned, in the sense that we've been doing it at drop zones just to the south of Trenton here. The drop zone they're going to, they haven't seen before. So the first time when they acquire it, from the slowdown point right into the actual green on, when that load actually goes, it's all new to them.
Crew from the right seat, we've got a hostile helo sighted after the drop near point Alpha Romeo 8. Stand by for updates.
The reality is you can have someone on the ground trying to shoot you. You're trying to do a good deed. Someone might take it as you're not being welcome.
Crew from the right seat, that last reported threat's now eliminated.
We have to be very cognizant flying in the valley here, guys. Prevent your blowouts. For the loadies too, you're in on this part here. We want 200 feet off the wingtips. If we're getting close, I need you to let the AC know that, okay?
Check.
There will be times where you might feel uncomfortable. Expect to be close to the edges.
Check. Okay, this track is right on, right when you come over this bridge, you should see the entrance to the river. Check.
When we're down at 200 feet, there's a lot more to play with. So you've got the terrain that you've got to worry about. Things are a lot faster coming up on the pilot. So when we're flying along on a regular Air Canada mission, as I call them, you can couple up the autopilot, sit back, have your coffee, and relax. Well, when you're down at 200 feet, you don't have that luxury.
So left turn just after this.
Right, G, just follow through with your thumb on the map, okay? If anything, you're gonna fall behind because now we're going 5 times faster on the map.
Okay.
You've got to stay ahead, but not too far ahead of what's coming rushing at you. Because if we're going, for instance, we're going 210 knots ground. That means we're going 3.5 miles per minute, so it comes pretty fast.
Okay, come right, hard right turn now. You got your clear weather, Dean. That's the kind of stuff we expect.
Okay.
Okay, you know you gotta go right. You found clear weather to the right, make it happen. Okay, keep coming right. Let's just get back in the river route. We'll worry about the timings later.
Okay, we're crossing over the river now.
Down 200 feet, we're going to use valleys, we're going to use lakes, major features down on the ground to actually pinpoint where we are.
Okay, now get your ass in there. Get on the right side. Okay, let's call a left turn.
Okay, left turn is going to be to 330.
All clear left.
Clear left.
Okay, this is where we're going to do a big left and a hard right. So you want to get on the left side?
And the next heading is going to be 030.
Check.
The aircraft commander has to enter and exit the riverbed several times due to storm systems. But the navigator and first officer have kept him on course. They're now approaching the drop zone on time.
Stand by for slow down.
Loadmaster acknowledged.
Slow down now.
Right seat, look for your drop zone.
Okay, got it.
The pressure to hit the drop zone on time and on target is greater than ever. All the successful contour flying will be for naught if they miss the unfamiliar drop zone. It could mean failure for the aircrew. For the Loadmasters, it's even worse. If their cargo malfunctions at the drop zone, failing the course will be the least of their worries.
With a heavy equipment airdrop, if that hangs up, meaning that it doesn't leave the aircraft and you got that extraction chute, that drogue chute that is out in the slipstream, that could really, it could cause the hurt. Despite its massive amount of power, it might not be able to fly. Because if you slip one step, it could mean between survivability or become a statistic.
Slow down, check, please. Pilot acknowledges. Green on! Load clear. Flaps. Green off.
The load is dropped without a hitch, on time and on target. In this combat scenario, all enemy forces have been eliminated, so the crew heads for the airbase. For this aircrew, this is the culmination of nearly 6 months of training.
I think it went great. I think we worked better in front of the camera.
Yeah, the camera adds a little bit of pressure.
A couple weeks ago, I wouldn't have imagined being able to fly 200 feet off the ground at over 200 knots, all the time navigating, avoiding threats, and then coordinating the extraction of a load to land on the target at the exact time, exact location.
Yeah, I agree with the nav. The river route was a bit, quite a bit challenging, a bit overwhelming, but good exposure.
As a whole, everybody's been doing quite well. Considering it's a very challenging course, it's not for everybody and they're not going to just slide through easily, but they are putting in their full effort, which has really been appreciated, and we foresee everybody graduating off of this course.
Loadmasters, you have anything to add? No, number one Loadmaster's good.
From here, they'll move on to the mountain flying phase. That's an add-on part to the course, so they get that requirement as well. And then there'll be a 4-day check ride, which flies throughout North America.
This is really becoming a reality for me now. It's been a challenging course, and the end is within weeks away. I've already got my date for Afghanistan, and yeah, it's going to come quick.
I'm scheduled to deploy with Spencer, so that's my focus right now.
This course has been very challenging and demanding, and ultimately to fly in Afghanistan as an aircraft commander and get a load to some of our guys on the ground that really needed would be the ultimate thing.
overall, I was very happy with you guys. Very challenging day. You gave me the confidence so that you guys can complete this course with great success. So well done, guys. Very well done today.